Hello, I'm Eagle, Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 259. Hopefully, you guys have had an amazing Sunday. I know I did. Got an amazing guest for you this Sunday. We had Pacific North Rootz, RAS, Paul. How you doing tonight? You want to tell us first of all where we can find you and how you're doing today?
Man, I'm doing just fine. Coming off a birthday weekend, we've been up in the mountains celebrating, and so yeah, we're feeling really nice. We had a little lunch deal celebration with my good friend from Kush Creams, Megan, and my friend just was fresh back from Bali, the generous chef, and he came over and whipped up a big seafood boil for us, and I got to soak my bones in the hot tub, so I'm feeling nice and loose. And yeah, it was a good weekend. So thanks for having me on, Eagle, and I look forward to getting into it tonight. And I don't know. I guess off the top, I'm Ross Paul. My company is Pacific Northwest Roots. Um, I'm up here in Washington State, out on the Olympic Peninsula, and I've been in cannabis since 1995 when I started college up at Western and didn't have the funds to put myself through college, and I took a student grant and started doing things with herbs. And all this years later, it's developed into a really kind of an international seed company. And locally here in Washington State, we have a licensed recreational grow, and we were very active in the medical scene here in Washington State before recreational got passed here. And so we're one of those brands that has been doing it for a long time, I guess is what I'm saying. And we've made the transition into the legal market, and are playing the seed game on the international scale, which is really kind of cool. Um, but our flagship strain is something called Kaya's Coffee, which is really an Afghani dominated plant. It's got Tahoe OG crossed to alien technology. Shout out to Obsolete. I don't know if you folks know Obsolete's one of the guys that was really, before the whole seed thing blew up and there's all these new breeders and people doing cool things. There was a couple guys that were really on top of the game, and Obsolete was one of them. And he was bringing genetics in from overseas, and one of these genetics he brought back was called alien technology. Or he didn't bring it back, but he got a hold of it from somebody that was over in Afghanistan, and we implemented it into our breeding program via some Alien OG and Alien Kush, and basically that's the lineage behind the coffee there. And so that's kind of our flagship strain, but we've got a vast catalog that you could go check out at Worldwide Roots on Instagram. It's basically like a discography there. You can look at all of our old menus. You can find our seeds at Seeds Here Now, at Neptune Seed Bank, Heavily Connected, um, Rocky Mountain High. If you're in Europe right now, like in Paris, you can get them at Attic 369. Um, we we put out a lot of different content over the years on different forums and different seed banks as that kind of whole market has evolved. Back in the day, there was places like the Seed Depot and a couple of the spots, and they would pop up, and you would build your content on a forum style deal. And sometimes that didn't work out, and then those sites would go down, and you lose all your content. So now the game has kind of evolved, and we've all got our own little individual sites, and people are it's just a little more fluid now. So um, at any rate, that's where you can find the seeds. And if you're in Washington State, you can pick up our hash products. We have a tier 3 farm here out on the peninsula, and we're growing using natural methods. We're a DEM certified, a Dragonfly Earth Medicine certified farm. So we're not using any kind of outside products. We're fermenting things and using Korean natural farming. We're building Hugo cultures and doing regenerative farming practices out there on the spot, and pushing it out that way. We don't have any investors. It's just us guys, a couple of buddies that I grew up with, and it's been an uphill battle, but we're pushing on, and putting out really good hash that's grown in a good way without any kind of pesticides. We grow both indoor and outdoor. So our outdoor, we have a 3,000 square foot light depth, and it's insulated, and we've got raised heated beds in there, and so we're running that year round now. We actually just got the power upgrade so we can do that, and we also have installed hugelkultur beds, which we could talk a little bit more. I don't know if you guys have talked much about that on your show here, but it's an old German growing style, and basically we're making carbon sinks using old dead wood, and forest litter and manure and compost and mulch layers and living mulch layers, and building that up and then growing on top of that, so that you really have a slow release environment for nutrients that your plants can uptake. And for me, the plants just they really thrive in that environment. And we're also doing some full season outdoor, just because we have the space. It's a little bit difficult here in Washington because we have a short season, so we have to be very particular about the cultivars that we're running. And we also have, I want to say 30, 24, 48, I don't know, close to 70 lights indoors in 3 different bloom rooms, and we're just getting those up and running. We've had one online for about a year, and we'll get the other 2 up here online pretty soon. And our business model is not flowers. We might transition to that in the future, but right now I'm also kind of known for making super high grade hash, and so pretty much all of our production is geared to running elite hash strains that we've bred or collected throughout the years, and producing water hash with those, making 6-star and hash rosin, which is really kind of taken off here again in Washington State, which is great because it was really thriving during medical days, and then it got shut down from the legal market, and now it's coming back, and we're participating in that, and making drops, which is really cool. So yeah, that's the Rootz right now. That's kind of where we're at, and where we're from, and yeah.
Man, what an amazing guy. I hope I get a second crack at this interview, because there's no way we're going to cover all this.
No, that was like 20 years condensed.
And it sounds like all great, a great journey. I'd love to be able to, piece it all in at some point. So, I guess let's start where you started there. I guess let's start with the breeding. What led you to in such an early market, when things were such a risk to be growing the plant? So many other people would have been trying to grow the flower and flip. What made you decide to take the genetics road with breeding?
I've taken actually a couple different risks like that, and it's really kind of awesome. So I actually, when I first got into cannabis in the mid 90s, it was really strictly, I was engaged I was close to the Canadian border, so I was getting work and redistributing things, and there was kind of local stuff that was there, and then there was this work that came down from Canada, and so I got to see a lot of things. I got to experience a lot of different cannabis, and I did that for a long time. And I kind of grew here and there. We had thrown some seeds out one summer and did a guerrilla grow on Blanchard Hill that was mildly successful. We grew a couple pounds and it was fun, but we were just kids, and then we took lights from the campus, and we're building out closets and doing crazy stuff in houses all over campus. And but it was, it was kind of a plaything. It was a secondary thing to the hustle that was happening. But I give thanks to that hustle because it allowed me to see a lot of different product and to be able to familiarize myself with different strains and to know where they're coming from, and really kind of have an understanding of stuff. And it wasn't until closer to, I want to say 2002, that I blew up my first, indoor. I did I want to say it was like a 6 lighter, and back then it was $4,000 a pound. So you could make huge money off a 6 lighter, and we were doing hydroponic stuff, and it was just cash cropping. And as I got deeper into it, um, I was just drawn into a different aspect of, I was introduced to different people that were growing different ways. And I was really drawn into, the organic herb. It was the best. When the guys had it, it was like, that was the good stuff. So I wanted to learn what that was. And I got more familiarized with that. And there was a medical, a really cool medical scene here. And there was an online forum called the Northwest Green Thumb. And the folks on the Green Thumb were really about patience and helping each other out and sharing growing methodologies and whatnot. And that's where I met Lemon Hoko, and he was an old timer. And we just got together to swap some herbs, and got to talking. And he was breeding dogs and training dogs, and I kind of had that background. My dad did that, and my dad also had done that with game fowl. And he said, Kaya, you have a lot of really good strains. You should breed. And I said, man, I don't know about all that. I'm just growing as much as I can. And he said, no, you should breed. This is the long play. He said, I've got some genetics that people are going to want, and you've got some really great base stock. He said, you should try this. You kind of have a knowledge of how breeding works, and why don't you get into it? And he said, he said, let me come over to your house. So he came over to my spot, and he said, these plants look really good. You should seed them. And I was looking at him like, man, I don't know about that. And he told me what it might be worth. And I thought, God, that's amazing. That I could increase the value of my crop by making seeds. And he said, well, it's going to take you 5 years to sell it all. And I was like, holy cow, really? Okay. And he said, and you're going to have to, test everything, and you got to start working lines. And, he basically laid down the law and became my mentor. And, I followed his advice. I did the full breeding there I picked out my 10 best elites. And after the crop was done, I popped, a certain amount of everything and ran a big test room of everything. And I took pictures and cataloged everything, and really took my time with it. And I knew what those original elite, I was working with them for years, so I knew what they were doing. And then when I hit them with that male pollen, I could see exactly how that male was interacting with those plants that I was so familiar with, and I could make certain judgments about it. And it was a really incredible learning experience to do that and go through the whole process and document it, and make guesses about what's going to be good and what's not, and see where I hit it or I didn't. And once I got into that and I could see what the boys were doing, and this male that he had given me was the Alien Kush F2 male, and it just it added structure and a beautiful purple to the flower, and just loads of resin, but it let the terpenes from those original moms just pass right on through, in like 7 out of the 10. So it was really, really good stuff. And from there we just kept breeding lines and working, doing out crosses, but also breeding filial generations and doing back crosses. We just released the Coffee BX4. We've done some projects with Mel and with other breeders where we've passed strains back and forth on F-gens and done different selections, and tried to keep it fun and keep it fresh. And so I think that all started like around 2010. And I had to take a lot of risk. I had to put seeds in people's hands, and some people burned me, but that was just the price to play at that time. You had to send seeds into these banks, and they were just they were burning people mostly left and right. And then I just started kind of doing it myself. And about that time, the shows opened up, so I was able to go kind of on the circuit with people. And my good friend Exotic Mike had done a show up here in Seattle at one of the high times, and I just, you know, I walked through the show and rolled up on his booth, and it was just amazing seeing all these people out there lined up for these seeds, man. And he had really great, you know, plants that he was breeding and playing with, and good genetics, and it was, you know, it was really cool. And so I did the circuit for a year, and you know, I don't know if you've been to a high time event, but it's it's high energy. There's a lot of BHO smoke in the air, and you know, it just gets my heart rate up, and it's not really my vibes. Um, and I got a family. I got a bunch of little kids, and so I like to be home and working on my farm. It's not really my thing, but I put up with it, and I did the traveling and kind of got the banner out there, so to speak, and you know, shared some of my creations with the right people, and you know, it's turned out all right. You know, I try to treat people good. You know, we try to follow the golden rule, um, and that's worked out for us. You know, we're not in running the short game. We're running the long game all day long. You know, we're testing our genetics. We're taking time with things that don't pass the sniff test get tossed out, and you know, we're not desperate for anything. I've been doing this for a long time, so I can afford to do the things that maybe other folks can't do. Or you know, I guess there's a lot of folks out there doing it in a real good way, and you know, it's just weird. The seed game's kind of weird right now. There's a lot of people doing weird things, and I don't know. We're trying to do something different. We're releasing actually a project right now that's available. Something I did with Green Source Genetics, and you know, their thing is natural cycle breeding. So these plants are bred outside, not in a greenhouse, not under cover, but these are, you know, full term, full season, outdoor, in the natural ground. Um, these were bred in, you know, in that locale, and you know, all natural, and they've got that just a level of hardiness to them, you know, and part of that is the selection. You know, the coffee's got real great hardy genetics, and you can make some good selections in there, and he's making some really great selections. And that natural cycle breeding, we do a lot of our breeding in our backyard. You know, I've got a couple different spots in different zones that I can go and hit, and we also do indoor breeding, but doing that natural cycle breeding in your location is really crucial, I think, for plant evolution and for genetic evolution. And the way that a lot of these markets are going, people are growing more outdoor in uncontrolled environments, or growing in controlled environments. But there's different factors that you have to consider. You know, growing outdoor in a, you know, greenhouse in Colorado is a little different than growing it in a greenhouse in Washington, Western Washington, for sure. You know, so having genetics that have some diversity to them is important. You know, something that's going to perform well in that environment, and we're trying to push for that. You know, a lot of people are just pushing for a hypey name, or a cool name that rhymes with something, or you know, peanut butter jelly, and it's like, all right, you know, it's cute, but you know, I need something with substance in it. I want to know that the farmer's, you know, weeding through some stuff, or he's got, you know, when I'm breeding something, I'm trying to think about, you know, what are the origins of this plant, and what can I expect from it? You know, what kind of expressions is it going to give me? And I'm trying to have an idea about what I'm trying to build. I'm not just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks, you know. But this is,
Man, I've got a bunch of respect for you guys over there in the Northwest, man. You guys seem to be doing some breeding right, and not just right. You guys seem to be breeding in some morals and respect into the group you've got going there. And shout out to you guys for that, because breeding is taking a crazy turn right now. Like you said, there is a lot of people doing it and just throwing out there just some crazy mix. So it's nice to see that you guys are up there working with each other, working with respect and some morals of what you guys are putting out there. You know, I have a ton of respect for that type of breeding and them type of people. You know, it's so many people out there right now just trying to flip a quick buck, and I have, you know, a ton of respect for people like yourself that want to take time out and do do things correctly and for the right reasons. It's pretty awesome.
Thanks.
And
Thanks.
furthermore, I've got some respect for you for doing some outside breeding as well. I've kind of talked with a few breeders the last, well, a lot. And when I talk to them, most of them are indoor breeders, and I always propose the question to them. What are your thoughts on just indoor breeding? Do you think in some ways we're crippling the plant, or only pulling out certain traits because we're pheno selecting, and all the pheno selecting is being done indoors, so we could actually be weakening the plant on our certain traits. So if somebody were to try to take it outside, it just may not be able to handle the intensity, the environment, because it's bred into such a not a less equal environment, let's say that. So, and
Well,
you're
it's just
right. There is, as far as outdoor goes, man, there's a huge difference from straight up outdoor to greenhouse. That just though that's a huge diversity right there outdoors.
yeah, and I don't get me wrong. There's room for everything, and some of these little crazy crosses, people are finding neat stuff that pops up, and that's fun. I like new terps. I love great new combinations, and I think that's really cool too. Um, and as far as indoor versus outdoor, yeah, not to knock indoor. I've grown indoor for a long time. I still grow indoor, um, but having diversity in genetics and having genetics that are can perform in different environments is really crucial. And me and what I'm doing, I get people calling me from all over the world, and not everybody's growing in indoor environments. And those guys that are growing in those outdoor environments generally want a lot more seeds and game, and it's really important that you've got some stabilized stuff. That's what they want. And everybody's got their own angle. So I think the game has changed a little bit, and being able to keep up with it is crucial. And again, I just think that if you're really breeding with not just yourself in mind, but with the weed in mind too. Like, where am I taking this plant? And am I putting some good stuff into it? Am I I don't know, some of the feminized stuff, and then breeding to feminized plants. I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna turn out well down the road. I prefer the natural stuff, but that's just that's me. To each their own, I guess. But that, to me, that just kind of goes hand in hand with what we're doing. We're growing in a natural way too. So I want to try to keep things, on that, just like with our hash, we're not processing that with hydrocarbons, or we're not doing that. We took all this effort to breed it naturally, to grow it naturally. We're going to finish it. We're going to wash it in just ice and water. Um, and just kind of, that's our path. Other folks got their own little methods, and you know that's cool. But this is what we're doing. This is our methodologies, and I think it's super important that we hold some of that in our space, especially in the cannabis space, because everybody wants to make like Frankenweed and and do some really, I've heard people talk of doing crazy genetic splicing stuff and this and that. And like, at what point do we just, I don't know, I've just had enough of it in the world, and now we want to do that shit to our weed. Get the fuck out of here. I'm done with that. This is our sacred medicine. Let's keep it sacred. Let's keep it natural. Let's do something a little different, that we're going to ingest, and it's going to be our spirit medicine and our body medicine. Let's do something a little different. Let's take it back to natural. And serve me. I think people are really hip to it now. People are catching on. People don't want GMO food. They don't want bullshit. They want the real deal. They want stuff that tastes good and feels good and is going to feed their spirit, is nutrient dense. You can grow carrots and tomatoes, and you can grow all kinds of stuff that looks like food and really doesn't have the nutrient density that your body needs to keep you healthy. You can go on an organic diet and just eat vegetables and get sicker. There's a story about the guy who started Territorial Food Seeds, and that's what happened to them. And they couldn't figure out why, and they ended up going on a vacation, I think, to French Guiana or something in South America, and just ate with the local guys, and they got healthier again. And they figured it out that it was the nutrient density, because the food that those guys were growing was grown with microbes. And it wasn't, some modern commercial nutrient film technique, yada, 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 And the more that I study the soil and the more I study our human bodies, because you got to be your own doctor. You got to learn your own body. You got to, that's a smart thing to do, right? I've learned these things. The microbes in the soil are the same that are in your stomach, same. And so, if your stomach doesn't have those because you're eating unnatural foods, or you're drinking, alcohol, which kills those microbes, or taking antibiotics, which kills those microbes, or doing all these things, right? Your stomach can't uptake those nutrients via microbes. It's got to release weak acids, and it doesn't get fully absorbed, and now your body doesn't have the nutrients. And maybe your beard doesn't look beautiful like mine, or whatever it is. So you need to have that in your system. And the same for your plants. If you want your plants to be super healthy and vigorous and fight off disease and be resistant to pathogens, and bugs don't even want to mess with it, you got to make them healthy. And they can be bolstered by those microbes. If they've got those relationships, they're uptaking the nutrients better. They're building better cellular structure. I can see that when I wash hash. The plants that were grown in the hugelkultur, man, I get extra cycles out of them. That's extra yield, and the terps are great. And it's because that cell structure is so strong, it doesn't just break up in the water and just release all the chlorophyll and go to shit real fast, because it's a healthy plant. So I think those natural methodologies, it's a win for everybody. It's a win for the planet. It's a win for the farmer, because the farmer, you can work less. Do nothing farming. It's not about being lazy. It's about being smart. It's about letting, growing on the edge of wild. If you are, totally in control of your environment, you got to be there and be in control of that thing. For me, I want a garden that's kind of on the edge of wild, where the wild is the power in there that's pushing it and driving it, and those microbes are in there doing their thing, and we're just assisting by adding some compost here, or a KNF signaling agent here or there, because we're kind of getting to that level of advancement where we know how to do that, but really just get out of the way and let the microbes do the work for you. They create a really good product, super good product, better than house and garden, better than Mills. I don't know. I don't know. I don't smoke that stuff. I can't. I don't drink diet soda either. I can taste aspartame. It's gross. You grow something with some kind of food regimen, I'll taste it. And when I smoke something that's grown in a hugelkultur and has never been sprayed with nothing, it's absent. There is no harshness to it. It's absent. It tastes delicious. It doesn't, the effects are different. It's not there's no raciness to it. That's my experience. I don't know what methodologies are you using? Are you doing natural stuff? Are you experimenting with? Have you been into organics? Are you using? I've done both. I've done the hydroponic stuff. I ran Lucas Formula. General Hydro. That was my first stuff. So I'm not knocking it. We all start somewhere, but as you evolve, and you can see how these things work, and man, when I started learning KNF stuff, that's when I started to get upset with these companies selling me shit in a bottle. I was like, oh, really? I can make CalMag? Really? I can do that with just some eggshells or some, calcium bicarbonate? Like, really? and some vinegar. That's amazing. Oh, I can make my own vinegar. Watch this. You know, I got 20 gallons downstairs. You know, pick the apples right off the tree outside. It's right here, and it's cheap, and it's not diluted, and it's even better because it's got microbes from your area. So if you're growing in a greenhouse or, you know, out in my backyard, that's the stuff I want to use to feed my plants. You know, what do you want to feed yourself? A banana from South America that got fumigated? Or do you want, you know, a kiwi? We can grow kiwis here in Washington. You want a kiwi from your backyard? I want this kiwi. I want this local stuff that I grew, you know? Um, my body's going to respond to it, right? Microbes in the dirt, microbes in my stomach, same kind. They're all in the plant. I don't even like to wash my food off when I eat it. I just
Have you ever? I love the microbes in the soil microbes in your gut. I was actually listening to right here. If you can see that the Dirt Cure before the show, I've been listening. Have you ever read the book or listened to the book there, The Dirt Cure?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, you could have wrote that book from what you told me. Actually, everything you said, you know, and that you know about the microbes in your gut. I mean, all of it came straight out of like chapter 9 of what I was listening to. I mean, it's very oriented to what you're talking about, and it's very right, man. I'm currently in cocoa and salts, transitioning back into some organics. I went back and forth. Reasons are whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
the organics movement is real, and I have friends of Smiley's Gardens there in chat that has helped pushing me towards that way. Green Bicycle sent me some stuff to help nudge me a little further. But at this point, I'm actually reading more organic stuff than I'm practicing.
Well,
But
you know,
I
I don't
don't.
I don't ever want to come off as judgmental. Like I said, I ran General Hydro, you know, Lucas Formula. That was my thing, man. I ran um, deep water culture. That was what I did for a long time. And every farmer was, you know, taught something or brought in. That's how I was taught and brought in, right? And then I became reliant upon those gardens. So I can't just, you know, make a switch and go to something that I don't know and take that risk. You know, a farmer's got to be smart, you know. So I'm not trying to knock anybody, but you know, the more you learn about it, and the, you know, you'll find a way to make that transition. I think you'll be happier. um, I did a couple grows in cocoa, and you know, a lot of the soils, engineered soils and stuff, have cocoa elements in it. um, and there's actually some really cool science behind ways to I've got a guy, my good friend Madhu, and he talks about ways to actually use recycled cannabis plants and make mineralized salts from those cannabis plants. And he's actually showed me some of the samples, and it's really amazing. And you know, people kind of get this weird idea about, you know, mineralized salts being the devil, or you know, kind of demonizing bottles and stuff. And you know, I think there's probably some bad products out there, but in reality, you know, it's just science, and it's a lot of it's organic chemistry, and you can get organic nutrients in bottles. And you know, there's some very good products out there. Organics Alive makes some really good products. um, you know, for me, I enjoyed taking it a step further and learning the Korean natural farming stuff, learning how to ferment my own things, learning how to make my own water soluble phosphate, my water soluble potassium, you know, fish amino acids. And it's really, to me, it was a fun experience, and I could afford to do that. And it works well with what I'm doing, you know. But I've seen, you know, I've seen the results from hydroponic growing and cocoa growing, and man, you can grow some big crazy nugs. um, you know, I personally probably don't want to smoke them, just because I got that really sensitive palate. But then again, if you're doing it right and you're doing proper flushes on it, um, you know, I've also seen some really high grade stuff that maybe you wouldn't know. Um, so maybe it gets a little bit of a bad rap, um, because people don't quite do it right. You know, when I was running my hydroponic things, you know, I was flushing for 14 to 21 days at the end. we wanted our water to come back, and I would change the water. Generally we change the water every cycle, which was like a 7-day cycle, 6-day cycle. We changed the water, and we're always adding water to it as the float valve would come down. But we made sure that we gave it a really, really good flush at the end, so that when we were putting water out, it was coming back at the same, pretty close to the same parts per million on it. So, it was drinking clean water and pushing out whatever it had in it. And organics, you really don't have to do that. But, as long as you're doing all of that properly and flushing your plants, and, you're happy with the result, and it's providing for you, that's a good thing. I don't think that cannabis guys need to beat up on each other over their methodologies. I make jokes about it once in a while, but it's all in love. Again, I was there, and I just think, it's just a natural progression. You do it long enough, and especially if you're doing it for medicine, there's something to your intention, and I guess whatever you're feeding the plant to, whatever your intention is, that might even be more important. You know what I mean? Same thing with eating. If you can't really afford organic food and stuff, and you've got to be, doing what you're doing, it's okay. If you're giving thanks for that and you're putting it in your body with a good intention, a good thought, it's probably okay, versus, putting it in like hating yourself for doing it, but knowing that you don't have a choice, so. I don't know. I just think it's important to say that, because sometimes people, I just remember when I was learning organics, people were, I was a cash cropper and we were doing hydro stuff, and it was like the probiotic soil alliance guys were, people just thought they were assholes, like they were looking down their nose at people that weren't growing organically. And I don't ever want to come off that way. I want to be, inviting and say, hey, I got some really cool information. Let me share with, why don't you try this? Try to make your own CalMag, and try it on 2 plants and see if you like it, see if the results are good, maybe not, or try to make an IMO, or do some teas or whatever, incremental, do little steps, but yeah, I'm into it. Anybody that's growing is good.
I'm headed there. I'm headed down the road. I'm slowly heading down the road.
If you ever get a chance to go see or sign up for one of Chris Trump's classes, sometimes he does them in Idaho, which is not a cannabis-friendly state, one of 14 in the United States, the holdouts. But if you ever get a chance to have a class from him, or a class from Logan, of Conscious Rhythms in Hawaii, the Haile Selassie Farming Institute. Those guys are really excellent teachers, super excellent teachers, or go check out one of the, I know they've had them in Michigan, the regenerative farming conferences. It's a good place to get some good genetics and talk with some really good people. And, you can make some connections and learn, maybe you're not doing it right now, but you can go visit a farm that's doing it, or, I don't know, find a good source for a couple of good organic pots and, do a little side by side.
We've got some going. We've got a little bit of going already here. You can't see them back here, but there is some organic earth boxes that Smiley's Gardens has set me up with to kind of push me in the directions of organics.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not opposed to it. I know it's the right thing to do, to be honest with you.
But people, I mean, it's intimidating. It's really easy when somebody says, follow this formula, and it works. It's like magic. And I think we get mystified by it, and fuck NPK. What is NPK? And then there's macros and micros, and it's just, sometimes it can be like, holy man, I don't know if I can even handle all this. But when you come at it from a holistic thing, and you learn how the whole system works, and then you learn how you can get these different constituent components, and then you realize the guys that made these bottles, they got this idea from somewhere, and it was nature. And that's all they're trying to do, is they're trying to copy, your nitrogen is trying to copy what's happening down in the river with the salmon. But they're not even trying to copy it. They're like taking byproducts from stuff and using that as the ingredient. So you're getting a lesser quality ingredient in your fish hydrolyslate, versus if you just got some brown sugar and went salmon fishing and threw the waste in there, or trout fishing or whatever, and threw the waste in there with that brown sugar. Now you've got a really high quality fish amino acid that's going to kick that hydrolyslate's ass up and down the street. um, and that can be intimidating, but really, like, get your sovereignty back, get your power back. Don't partner with the hydro store. I love hydro stores. They're kind of, they're fun. I miss them, but get your power back. Get connected to the things around you, and it's it can be cheaper, and it's fun to make your own ingredients. I love it. I really enjoy. I get my kids out there, and we make ferments, and they chop things up, and it's cool. It's super cool. And if Walmart ever closes, or the shipping truck stops shipping, it's all right. You're gonna know how to do things without that. Um, and for me, I got to have that kind of. To me, that's security. You know, I'm an insecure person, so I want to feel secure in being able to feed myself, or grow food for myself. And my little farm here where we live it's only an acre. I only farm on I don't know, maybe a third of it. I got some fruit trees, and I got some animals. Um, but you really don't need a lot of space, and it doesn't have to be cannabis farming. Go grow some of your own food. You know, I had a whole bunch of pots just like that. I had 3 houses during medical days. And what was I doing with all this extra dirt and stuff when it was done? And I was tossing it out, and go, if you don't have great soil, that's a great base to start, and then just start composting on top, and cover cropping, and grow your own food a little bit. I'm really into that. It kind of turns me on almost a little more than growing weed these days. I love growing my own food, and doing seed collection this year. We collected a whole bunch of seeds, and we did tobacco and poppy, and we pulled pumpkin seeds and squash seeds. Pulled seeds from everything. I got some really crazy purple corn from Green Source guys that he'd given me, and we pulled a couple of those ears and dried them. And I don't know, it's good fun.
It's best way to go. Like you said, the stuff you're buying off the shelves is so a lack of nutrient density, to say it correctly, and it isn't doing much for us, but getting us by and making us sick, and like you said, in a lot of cases. So, that's one of the things I've really appreciated about cannabis. This whole cannabis thing is it's I I don't think it's any coincidence that it's emerging at this crazy time in society. It's a very much a progression. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been back and forth, but what I see right now is a huge progression, not only in the cannabis industry, but human civilization as a general. We kind of know we've messed up, and we know that we need to be taking steps to do things right, and that's what you can see in the cannabis industry. It may be starting out with these little gardens right here, but the doors it's opening up in a lot of minds as far as organics is huge. The organics takeover, as Smiley Gardens here calls it, is huge. It's starting with these cannabis plants, but even in myself, that's kind of the drawback for the organics for me, is I know once I've opened that door, it's all on. It's all on. I'm just that type. When I know I'm doing something right, it's going to be earthworm bins, bokashi, compost piles everywhere. And I'm maybe a little afraid of it right now, that I'm just going to have bends everywhere. My kids are going to hate me because I'm going to be running around going, that goes there.
It's honestly,
I
well,
won't be just breaking myself in. I'm gonna be changing everybody around me. And I don't think they're ready for it, but it's coming.
the worm bins are really great. My youngest takes care of the worm bins. He's 6, and my middle one, she's 7, and she's our chicken lady. She feeds the critters and stuff. But my youngest one, his job is to feed the worms, and we have 3 worm bins here. And I moved them inside of their playhouse for the winter to keep my worms warm. Um, but we feed them different things. So each bin, there's one bin gets the bananas and the avocado waste. So that's my potassium bin. And I know that when I run the water over that and I get my worm casting tea out of that, it's going to be higher in that. And then we put green waste in another one, and that's the nitrogen bin. And so you can do that, and that's kind of a fun little deal, that you can involve your kids in and your chores, and it takes care of your food scraps, some of them. um, and what more do you need? You've got the nutrients that you need wrapped up in the worm poop, right there, right in the castings. You don't need any more than that. you know um, the amounts of these nutrients. I did a conference, and Elaine Ingram was there up in Canada, and she was like the keynote speaker, and she was talking about the soil food web, and in specific, like how much nitrogen is on an acre, having your soil tested ahead of time, and yada yada. And basically she was breaking it down, and most of the if you got pretty decent soil anywhere, like the amount that's in there is more than you'll ever need, but getting access to it is another story. And so that's kind of where the microbes are ultimately important. So what I guess the point of it is just that if you're using those worm bins and the worm casting, you don't need a huge amount of those whatever nutrients. It's having the right amount and having it accessible, and that's you know those little worm beds are so awesome. I use old coolers. Um, they don't have to be very big. And then I just put down stone on the bottom and some burlap, um, or screen, and then a little bit of different substrates, and then just let the worms work their way through, and they'll eat through that thing in 3 months. And we're continually adding, but still, even at that pace, within a couple months they've eaten through the whole thing, and you can basically pull them out and do a whole restart, spread all that material out, or make teas. Yeah, the worms are great, and you just can't hurt yourself with it. I mean, literally, you can't. You're not going to overdo it. Um, as long as you don't kill your worms, which, I mean, don't kill your worms. Just don't drown them. Keep them semi-warm, and keep the food moving, and they'll do all the work. There's some really cool tricks you can do if you are wanting to propagate worms like on a bigger scale. Um, you can put them in a more dense substrate. Um, and worms have a really crazy thing that they do. So if they're in something, so if you say you were in like sand, the worms can sense, hey, I can't get really big in this sand. So they'll lay eggs, and those worms will be smaller worms, and they'll continue to make smaller worms. So you're going to get a huge population in that dense area. Now, when you take those worms in that dense substrate and you take them out, and then you put them into, say, your cooler with the regular amount of, like I just described, putting in the rock and the thing, and then some soil, and then feed. Those worms get in there, and they go, oh, we're not in that dense substrate anymore. So now they're going to lay. The next generation is going to be big worms, because they can signal to to the next gen, hey, you can go big now. So now you've got a lot of these little ones, and you put them in there, and they're going to make big ones. And so that's kind of a cool little trick you can do with if you're like I've got a pretty good sized farm. The rec farm is we get 30,000 square feet of canopy, and it's so this year we did these big rows, and we needed to up our worm production like really fast. So that was one of the things that we were able to do is just to proliferate the worms faster by using that dense substrate and then shifting them to something that was less dense, and then they just they explode. So worms are really cool. Going down the wormhole,
So it is pretty sustainable to, you can create enough work through own castings, for a grow that size and keep things, pushing along, or do you have to, you know, outsource some?
No, when we started, we picked up. There's a Jim's Worm Farm here. I think it's down in Olympia, and we went and picked up a couple bags when we first started out because we didn't have them. And then we took some of they had these big huge bins there, and so we made a whole bunch of bins. And we're ordering all this equipment, so there's a bunch of cardboard around. So it's like free disposal of the cardboard. The worms love the cardboard. That's the carbon you need in the dirt. So it was just a win-win situation, and our worm populations are up. They're massive now, And then in the off season, we just mulch and lay down cardboard on the rows, and it's they're doing their own work in there. Again, we've kind of got it in our mind that you got to do something it's really hard changing every pot, going through there with what you're doing, and every time you got to flip the pots out and do the thing and squish it out and do all, that's a lot of work. When we're growing in beds, we don't do any of that. We don't, we're just replanting and new cover crop, maybe add a little compost. So if you're cycling in a sustainable way, then you don't really have to do that. The worms are living in there. We use rove beetles. Rove beetles are really awesome. They get in there and they'll eat up all kinds of soil gnats and eggs, and their larvae eat things, and they're just like this super predator in your soil that helps aerate the soil. And this is all the advantages that you're allowing nature's intricate thing that has been developed over a long time to do the work for you, and you're just learning to harness it and work with it, and then you get more free time to go fishing or read to your kids or do whatever you want to do. But yeah, the worms are a great way to get into that mode of farming, real gentle way, and you're not going to burn your plants, or you're just not going to screw it up, and it's just worms. They're cheap, super cheap, and you could use anything, put them in anything. And we do animal husbandry here and out at the ranch. So we've got ducks and geese and chickens, and I got goats here. So I'm always changing out their bedding and taking that and using that on the field, and it's a real nice natural cycle to get into. And I don't have to haul. It's right there. I'm using it. So we call these closed loops. To get Dragonfly Earth Medicine certified, you have to have so many closed loops, and collecting water, but basically just using things on your farm to generate the energy and the power to keep going. If you can source it, again, you're cutting out the whole everything. It's all right here for you. If you're in the city, that's probably going to be real hard for you to do. But if you're in the country like us, it's really like, once you learn to tap into it, there's so much stuff here, and planting things like comfrey and being able to harvest different, nettles. I got nettles growing crazy out here. It's just all kind of like right at the fingertips. And I've never experienced a farming method that was quite like that. It's hard to get me off my backyard. I love to be out there. I love to get dirty, and just it's such a peaceful place for me. And my kids and my wife sometimes grumble about it, but then they get out there, and I can't get them inside either. There's good medicine to it, and it makes you healthy. Right? I mean, you're getting that dirt on your hands. You're getting those microbes on your hands. You're inoculating yourself. it's how we're meant to interact with our mother earth, with our planet where we live. You know, like I feel like sometimes such a hippie saying that kind of shit, but it's not hippie shit. You know, this is reality, you know, and the more we learn about it, the more science just backs it up. You know, when I learned about the microbes being the same, and it just like it clicked so hard for me. It clicked so hard for me that I was just like, whoa, you know, those microbes are the same ones, and they're breaking things down. And like, if you're spraying that crop with some glyphosate, and now I'm going to ingest that glyphosate, it's killing the microbes in the ground. It's going to kill them in my stomach. You know, this is why, you know, I had stomach issues for like 2 years, and I thought it's just going to be like this forever. And somebody said, "Oh, go see this naturopath." And I went to the naturopath. He said, well, "What are you eating? What are you putting in your body?" And I said, "Just that." And he said, "Okay, cut these things out." And um, you know, he fixed me where Western medicine tried for 2 years taking X-rays and, you know, swallow this barium and let's look at a picture of your gut and this and that. And nobody ever asked, "What are you eating?" You know, nobody ever said that. Nobody ever said, "Man, you eat foods that are preservatives. It's killing all the microfauna in your stomach." You know, and oh, by the way, all your serotonin and dopamine, or, you know, the vast majority, 70-80% of it is made in your stomach. So, you know, when people talk about mental health in our country and the problems with it, well, how are people supposed to feel? Their guts are dead. You know, they don't have the generator in their stomach to create the chemicals in their brain that make you feel good, that make you feel connected. Oh, wow, those microbes, those chemicals that make you feel good, actually you get those from the earth. Like that's a signal, right, that you should be taking care of the earth, and the earth is going to take care of you. I mean, it can't be any more clear to me. So I don't know, it sets kind of a fire off in
You
me,
gotta
right?
read
But
that
like,
book.
you know.
You gotta read that book, brother. I mean, it sounds like you know everything that's in the book, but I think you'd be impressed that you know there's somebody else out there. You know, put yeah, it's the name of the book is The Dirt Cure, and it is. I had that click right there with the microbes. I'm not. I was far. I was pretty close to being down that road anyway, with just understanding what's going on in the cycle in the soils, and then the psilocybin with working with us. I've been kind of curious about that road, but then when the book there, they talk about the microbes in your gut, and basically what they were saying was the microbes in the gut are actually control 40% of the way we think and over 60% over our overall health. And like you were talking about when you went to that doctor, they were first question they proposed to you was what'd you eat? In the book, basically it's coming out the other end. She's basically asking what's your feces look like, and she can tell you basically what was ailing you from the samples and the direction. They were saying you could reduce like skin problems, emphysema, chances of autism and stuff like that. It was all coming from the foods that we were eating and the lack of mycelium in our guts. There, you know what I mean? It's a very eye opening book, man. And again, to hear it coming out of your mouth just is kind of driving home everything I listened to today. So, pretty awesome coincidence, to be honest with you. Pretty awesome coincidence.
There's no coincidence, man. That's the Most High tapping in and saying, "Come on, I got you. Let's do this. This is the hidden knowledge that you need to know. You know, this is how you take your sovereignty back and take your mind back and take your body back." And people say, "Oh, they're trying to poison us and they're trying to chemical us this," and I don't know that it's intentional. I think it's just people doing what they're doing to make money, and consequences be damned. And um, it doesn't need to be a conspiracy. It really doesn't. It just, I didn't know this shit. I grew up in the 80s, and it was fucking TV dinners was cool, and make it convenient for mom, and um, mom should go get a job and shouldn't, and that's cool. I'm not against. I'm just saying, like, at a certain point, you got to get back to, like, you know, let's feed ourselves some basic shit. Like, when did it ever be uncool to, like, feed ourselves? Like, buying stuff at the store, and, like, I got aunties that have the most incredible pantries, filled with canned goods, and if we lose that, we're fucked. We really need to have that in our lives, and that really should actually be the norm. And by the way, this whole crazy thing that we're going through right now in this time with this COVID stuff, um, whatever your stance is on it, it's a wake up call that you should be growing your own food. That you should have some kind of sovereignty over your, quit being so reliant upon a system. Because it's not going to take care of you. It's not. You got to take care of yourself. Take care of your neighbors. That's people talk about community till they're blue in the face. Community doesn't mean doing just silly car wash stuff. I mean, that's important. Baseball teams and sports and all that. That's important. But really, like, get to know your neighbors, and grow with your neighbors, and share your seed with your neighbors, and prep your food with your neighbors. Me and my neighbor, I was in Hawaii. We were stuck over there. Terrible, I know. But he went and picked up some turkeys for us, and we harvested those turkeys last week, and that's what we had for our Thanksgiving. And um, we got a couple extras out there for him and I, and we share, and just do that kind of stuff. I think it's ultimately, I don't know. The more I meditate on whatever our ailments are, it's like, man, community, and getting in touch with your local earth, and just tapping into that energy, and having, I don't know. To me, that's the resource. They can make our money worth nothing tomorrow if they wanted to, um, but they can't make my ground worth nothing. That would take a lot of work, especially when I'm loving my ground and putting back into it every year, and that's really all I need to survive now. Um, so then I can go on and take other risks, right? Because I've got this foundation. So make sure your foundation is set, and then push out, and try to do more. You know. Hey, I wanted to ask you: Are you growing from seed? Are you growing from clone? Are you doing both?
I do both. I do both. I grow from seed and clone, but
What's your
moreover from the seed. I try to go from seed moreover, and then clones are just from what I like.
what are some of your favorite seed finds?
Mm.
Do you got any keepers that you've popped somebody's gear and you're like, man, this is the one, I'm keeping her?
I get that all the time, but I have ran a ton of seeds, some of which I keep for a while, but there's so much coming so fast. I worked with Subcool and TJ and the Dank for a while, and I've worked with a lot of other breeders at some point doing some seed testing. So things come so fast. Uh, I haven't really, I just keep things moving. I keep things, I like for a minute and then pass it along. I'm really excited currently about tissue culture. I know that might not fall too great into the greater scheme of the, the GMO type mindset of it all, but I'm excited about it just as a preservation moreover, than trying to worry about splicing things over, being able to keep some of these things that we find. And that's where I'm excited about some of these ones that I'm excited about, but because of Michigan and the numbers that we have, and just the spirit of wanting to move forward, some of these winners that I have, I'd like to be able to put up and save and be able to come back to that exact same one. So I'm excited about tissue culture in that aspect. But something I've still got and keep going. No, I'm popping as fast as I can, and moving along.
Yeah, I think the tissue culture is actually really interesting, and I've sent in a couple samples to my friend. He's working down with the Jungle Boys now, Mike Hydro, and he was up here with an outfit in Seattle, and I sent in my coffee, and I sent in uh, pre 99 DJ Short Blueberry, which I've actually yet to get back. And they said they've tried a couple different times with different solutions and haven't gotten it to take. So it's not always a sure thing. They're still trying to figure out different plants reacting to different agars. And but I did get the coffee back, and I can't really say that I noticed much difference between that and the clone. Um, but it was a clean, beautiful plant, and I think it definitely has its place, especially for securing elites and keeping them. It's just really cool science. um, but I also think that maybe sometimes what your desired effect, like why you're doing that, I think that the natural solution also is breeding. If you've got an old plant that's dudding off, breed it, and just dig through there, and you're going to find something, and it might be more vigorous. And so I'm kind of with you a little bit on that. I like to keep things moving and go to the next, and that's exciting. But when I find something really awesome, I hold on to it. I've got some really amazing stuff that's super old, and we keep it in pretty close circles, but we share it for sure. Um, Sometimes I feel like, man, I got to share more. I got like a little tight little circle of 5, but sometimes this guy will like, oh, I got rid of that one, and this guy had an accident, and then you're down to like 2 dudes, and you're like, man, whew, I'm glad one of you had it. So I encourage people to try to share their keepers. But I really like running seeds. To me, they're just a little more vigorous, and you know there's just so much variety now that we can do numbers here in Washington, and not so much on the medical side. They actually cut the numbers down, but because we've got this facility out here where we can run huge numbers, it's been really fun. We ran, I want to say we ran like 150 jelly rolls this year from ITAL Foundation, and the colors on them were just amazing. And it's really cool to see, how much variation or how much similarity. We ran 100 of these, and you can clearly see there's 4 different expressions. And that's really cool to see, where those genetics are at. How they've been bottlenecked, or if they're really opened up. And like we did a chocolate tie crossed with Gorilla Glue, and it was all over the place, but all super frosty. So, really, really interesting when you get to play with bigger numbers. I think that's kind of cool. I don't know what your scene is over there in Michigan, but medical days here, you could do quite a bit, and you could stack cards. And then after they pass rec, they shut all that down, and now it's like you get 4 plants, and so it's super hard to run numbers, and I can imagine if you're just running, your own personal garden, that's got to be even harder to bring in genetics, because you're only allowed so many plants, and you kind of got to have like guaranteed winners, almost. Otherwise, you're wasting your numbers. So, yeah, it's got to be tough.
I can't bitch too much about my numbers. I mean, I do have some decent numbers, with patience and everything. But it's keeping what they like, and moving forward as fast as I can with some testers and whatnot. What do you guys got? What do you got over there? That may interest some of us in Michigan here. I know right now, I went to the fuels for a while, and then I worked with sub for a while, so I kind of had a lot of fruity stuff pass through. But right now, I'm trying to get back to some of the good stuff where we originated, the pine turds.
Yeah, everybody wants the pine back right now. I hear that.
Yes.
I hear that a lot. No, we did a whole bunch of new breedings this year. and you know, I got to run through it and test it before I let it go. But right now we've been releasing you know, more iterations of coffee, coffee F5s, coffee F6s are coming very soon. And our last kind of menu drops that we did earlier this year, we did the coffee back cross 4, coffee cubed, um, and then we did some outcrosses on there. So we hit that with Avi Deckel, which is a 22-to-1 CBD that we got out of I believe they're working with that one in Israel. And we crossed it to our OG Ghost Train Haze, which is this crazy sativa hasher. um, and then we also did a yerba line. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the dog walker from Portland. You guys heard of this dog walker? So that guy was a good friend of my partner down in Portland for a while. And you know, when prices plummeted, that dog walker was still 36 a pound. I mean, prices went to 36, they went to 32, they went to 28, they went to 25, they went to 24. It was still 36 for that dog walker, and he held it really tight. And people would pay it because it was just strong, like super strong. And so we crossed that to coffee, and that was a, you know, a one-off we had done maybe 2 years ago, and then we just came back to it because we really liked the results. And so we did some filial generation breeding on that to release F2s and F3s, and we just did some outcrosses. So we've got those available as well. And to me, that dog walker's got like this crazy mothball OG smell to it, and that goes really well with the coffee. Coffee's got, you know, some gas and some skunky stuff in there too. Um, but these flowers have just been crushing. We sent a bunch down to ITAL Foundation in California, and they just crushed it this year. So those are available right now. We've got sativa lines that we've done. Yeah, this year in my greenhouse, I did some really fun stuff. I got a bananimal mints from I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Kush family crew. So like Josh D, um, his his good friend is everybody's heard of Ghost OG. Has heard of the Ghost OG. So this is the homeboy that runs the Kush family crew. He's Ghost. That's Ghost OG. And so Ghost gave me this bananimal mints that was just absolutely beautiful this last summer, and we crossed that with the coffee. And we also hit our strawberry yogurt, which is like right now on the Washington hash market, our strawberry yogurt's just crushing it. Like it's the one. It's got this crazy cheesy, yogurty, um, but with strawberry on top, and it's great. It's a killer. Yields big. Um, so we've got all that stuff in the works coming up, and you know, like I said, the seed banks always have that stuff in stock. And yeah, we're just pushing it forward, and yeah, new
That
stuff to
sounds
test
pretty
this year.
amazing.
Yeah, maybe we send you some testers.
Yeah,
You want to test some gear for us?
I'd love to test some gear for you. I would
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
yeah. Let's get you
Be
some
awesome.
testers sent out there.
You never know. It might be the one that I keep.
The one. I mean, what do you
The
like?
one.
What's your personal like? You know, for me, I've got this pre-99 blueberry, and that's like my daytime smoke. We always have to have some of this in the garden. I can't smoke enough of it. It never burns me out. It's got the secondary terps, so like you burn all the way through. It's blueberry. It's incredible. Um, and I really like that one. And I love the coffee stuff that's like skunky and gassy. What's your affinity? What terps draw you in? You like the fruity stuff, or
Uh,
you like more earthy OG? You like the skunkiness? What do you look for?
I
Like that
like the
orange shit?
skunk and the gas. But no, not the orange shit. We were talking about that yesterday. The orange stuff is nice. It seems to be, it's good for anxiety, the orange terps. It's good for flavor, but that orange stuff just isn't the stuff that punches me in the face for some reason. It's super tasty. it hangs in the palate for a while, but it's never super strong for me. But as
Yeah, I
far
think
as me, I like the gas and the gas for the daytime, and then I like something. Well, I like the gas and the pines. The pines really hit me. For one, is it's very clarifying for me. The pines, and it's just something that you can smoke and think and do some good stuff. And then if you double up on the pines, it's that social weed. That's really nice. And the gases can be that way as well. The gases and the skunks are that way too. You know, you double up on either one of those, and it goes from doing something to sitting down, having some fun with friends if you double up on either of those. The fruits seem to be, a daytime smoke, just something you can get stuff done with. But for me, my first choices are like you pretty much called them right out in the beginning there. The gas, the skunks, the pines are the ones that I
yeah,
prefer to have around. But
yeah, I
there's
like
always that something new, something. That's what I'm always popping the seeds for. You never know what you're gonna get next, and it might be that the next favorite. So that's why I kind of keep moving on as much as I do. There's so many great things out there.
yeah.
It's
We're
all
gonna we're gonna get you some of these coffee seeds to play with.
all right.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I mean, and not to put too much on testing because the testing folks don't really have a standard, and it is whatever. But the coffee's strong, and Steep Hill Labs had tested it at I think it was 30% back in 2015, the original F1, and on the BX3s we had tested those, and those came out. I think I tested 10 different phenotypes, and all of them were 29, 30, 31. Um, so it's strong herbs. It's got a narcotic effect. I need like my shoulders to release. So that's for me it really like helps me when I hit it, just my shoulders relax, and I like that effect. So I think you'll enjoy the coffee. We'll have to get some of those out to you.
So a lot of people, chat's been bragging it up all night long. So I know for
Man, I'm
certain
sorry,
that
folks in
this.
the chat. I'm sorry I don't have. I'm. I know I look younger than I am, but I'm not the most computer savvy guy. And I'm scared to move my computer thing here and try to even pull the chat up. So I'm sorry if I missed your questions. I'm not trying to ignore you. I just literally can't see your chat. Do you got any questions before I get out of here?
Well, one question. Well, I got two questions for you. One of them pertains to what we do around here. One of them's got pertains to hash and seeds. First of all, I said it in the beginning. I knew from the time allotted, but I didn't know that that was such a great character and such a great content was sitting in front of me. So I guess I got two questions. One, I'd like to make sure to get you back so I can cover a lot more ground. Two, I'd like to ask you to come back and then join in on the the organics takeover that Smiley does. There's a couple of shows that we do here. One is the one-on-one with me. That's the fucking talking shit with Eagle. And then my friend Smiley's Gardens here, who is he's all organic, and he's the one that as I started doing this, I noticed that a lot of people that were paying attention to the show was organics, and I don't like to exclude anybody. If I see that's where people are wanting to know, and I know where to draw my line and flaws. You know what I mean? Right now, I'm not organic. I'm not. I'm still learning. I'm still learning, but that's where Smiley's at. And so I asked him early on, can you, come on and start, doing maybe this, but like in an organics atmosphere. So he does the organics takeover where he's kind of pushing the organics. So you'd be a great guest to get you on and talk nothing but organics with him. So I guess I'm asking you back on both fronts, both to come back and get to know you a little better on my end, and come back and hang out with Smiley and just run with some great organics conversation. So that's a couple
Yeah,
questions there.
I'm down
Looking for
to
yeses on
come and
that.
talk some shit
And then,
and talk some organics too. I guess it's all the same. Two shows, one topic.
all right, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
So I'm looking to, and then the question that I wanted to ask you before you go is about seeds. Do you make a lot of hash from your seed stock, or the flour that produces the seeds? That's one thing I'm really curious about.
So no, yes and no. Like the stuff that we're making out at the farm is it's production based. We found and selected keepers. These are elites, and that's what we're running for our production on hash stuff. um, and when I make seeds here, we pretty much are grinding it down, and a lot of the times my wife is actually using the scraps or remnants from the moms, that have made the seeds. She's cooking that into ointments or coconut oil or something along those lines. I have washed the remnants after we pulled the seeds out before, and it makes great old school hash, temple ball style stuff, but you're not going to get 6 star out of it. It's just it's going to be a darker hash most of the time once you've produced seeds from it. And the plant itself, once it goes into changing its energy, you know towards producing that seed, right? I mean, that it's pushing out and becoming sticky and stinky and trying to attract the pollen. But once it gets pollinated, it's kind of changing its energy to producing that seed and not so much on the trichome production and whatnot. So, there's good hash there to be made, absolutely. But it's not, yeah, it's not something that I would stake my stash on. It's like, yeah, I got the seeds and that was good. And I've tried to toss it on like I got the screens and do dry sifting and stuff with it. Um, but for the most part, I'm just using that stuff as cooked down stuff for coconut oil capsules and that kind of stuff on the farm. I'm not doing huge production and seed numbers. We just don't. I don't release thousands and thousands of packs. I
Wow.
don't do that. Um,
One
I want.
plant
I
can
want.
be pretty heavy as far as seed production goes. I mean, one plant could set you realistically in seed stock for a while.
Yeah,
But
you
there
can
was
make huge ones. I try not to do that because I'd rather keep things fresh. And I mean, how many
first.
packs? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could sell that many seeds. I've never really tried. It's just not my thing. I'm not trying to set world records and make. That really sounds like so weird to be like, hey, I got a seed company, but I'm not trying to make the most money on the seeds. But it's just not. It's not what drives me. I make what I need, and we put out, most of the time maybe 50 to 100 packs of any strains. With the coffee, it's been thousands. But you know, I don't want to put out a lot. I want it to be special. I want people to have something special. And if you got in on this drop and you picked that pack of seeds, there's only 100 other dudes out there with it. There's not 1,000 or 10,000 other dudes with it. So you got something special that you can make your own. And if you want to do some breeding with it, I support that. A lot of people are like, don't breed with my shit. Yeah, I take it. I think people even buy my packs just to get the males because my stuff is good for breeding. Where a lot of the other, poly hybrid stuff or the feminized shit, you're not gonna get something for breeding. You know, so there's been a lot of seed companies that are using our genetics or the genetics that we propagated and blended, and now they're re-blending them, and I think that's cool. Go for it. You know, um, so yeah, seeds.
Well, I respect that. To be honest with you, I would rather see you doing smaller batches that were good and more viable than producing one big batch and being 5 years down the road going, okay, here's some here's the same batch of them seeds. They may, I'm still selling them for the same price, but they may not be as viable as,
And that's
So I
really
respect that.
that's a really interesting thing, because some of these seed banks have been sitting on stock. You know, they're some of them, they don't push sales, and they're sitting on older stock, and they don't tell people when they buy that. And you know, I we try to do a really good job of packaging in the way that we do things, but sometimes you're going to get seeds and they're maybe not super viable. Um, I guarantee all my seeds. So if you happen to get one of those packs, hit me up, and I might not have that exact strain. Hopefully I do, but if not, we'll get you something updated. But I don't like that the seed banks do that. I think that they should put something on there created by date. I mean, they have that information, so um, I think that they should add that for the customer. I like fresh seeds. And the drop off
That's
isn't terribly bad. You know what I mean? You should get 100% in the first year or two, and if you store it right, maybe even year three, and then you might lose one or two. Over the next couple years, really depend. You got to store them right. A lot of people don't store them right. I sent them to Hawaii, and this kid sent me this thing. So, oh man, I got these molded inside. And I thought about it, and I'm like, man, I've never seen that before. And I got to thinking about it, and I had a Canagar that was in a package with the cork cap on it, and it molded because the cork cap allows there's a little bit of airflow through there, so maybe I need to do a wax on that one. But in his environment, he had taken it out of the box, and it was in a moist environment, and it got right into that thing and ate those seeds up. We replaced the pack for him, no worries. But you know how you store things and what your intent to do with them, it's important. I think a lot of people buy seeds just to collect them. um, I want people to pop them, run them, grow them. I mean, I guess if you want to buy them and collect them, that's cool too, but store them good and take care of them so that when you want to pop them, they work. Pretty important.
Man, that one question opened up. I've got like 10 other questions. And I never even really got back to we opened up so many other questions. Uh, yeah, that's kind of takes me back to the tissue culture thing there, to where I would like to see breeders like you that, could put out, take mom and dad for a project, make them on the seeds, be able to put them up and maybe work forward. And then, not necessarily the greater good, worried about having to reproduce seeds of their own because for one reason or another that strain's gone or whatever. No, no, Kai has got it. It's in vitro. He can put it out anytime he wants in a new batch. That's one thing that I think's kind of cool about the. But the reason I asked the question about the seeds and the hash was because of I was wondering if maybe that wasn't a part of the 6 star, because of, well, it does make a darker hash because the seeded plant has to go so much longer, and it, thus ambers the trichomes, makes it a little darker hash. But there's something that we've been talking about a little lately as well, and you kind of touched on it. Is you know, we've been talking lately, a lot of us, about plants that have been seeded and a different buzz coming from that cannabis seeded budded plant. And I asked West Coast the other night, is could that be the link that we remember? The difference in the highs back in the day when we got, it wasn't Rec, it was just black market. All the cannabis that we got, it was seeded, and we always wondered what the difference in the high was. I almost wonder if there
Just
isn't something going on with the seeded plant that makes it a different high. So that's what I was wondering about, is when you were making hash, did you notice something, a different high from that hash that was being made from the seeded bud, the
that's
whatever.
why it's super interesting. Somebody
As
needs to
you
do
said, it does
a
go through a different chemical process. Once it hits, man, it's different chemicals being produced.
somebody needs to do some kind of scientific research on that, because I think you're onto something. Uh, I think you're onto something there, and we just made. I can't get into too much detail, but we just made a batch of hash uh, for a client, And yeah, it had some different effects to it. My friends were talking about it just tonight. Like they were saying that this was just, it was really special. And the hash, the material that we washed was heavily seeded. Um, like he didn't harvest the seeds from it. Okay, it wasn't like, hey, I grew this to breed and I'm gonna collect the seeds and then make hash. It was, I grew this for hash. It's seeded to fuck. Just wash it. And I mean, seeded to fuck, like completely inundated with seed. And we washed it anyways. And it came back darker. It wasn't, not 6 star, darker. And again, I think maybe that color thing is also has to do with the pollen. I don't know if the pollen is in there now and it's going to change the color, and that might even play a role. Again, I don't know. I'm not in there with a microscope. I don't know how much of that pollen is getting held back in the hash or is involved in the hash. But uh, but I can say that the guy was basically, without a doubt, was like, this hash is doing something different. It is absolutely doing something different. Um, One of the gentlemen that smoked it was a manager for Lee Scratch Perry, and a world traveling man, and he said, I've never smoked hash that was quite like this. It may be attributed to that, being seeded plants. I don't know how we're going to find out scientifically. We need somebody with a bigger brain and a bigger microscope than mine.
Well, the only thing I could think of was to maybe make hash from that strain, and then make hash from that strain seeded, and then maybe have them tested side by side.
Right? Yeah, that would be a great control. That would be a great control. I might have to do
Uh,
that. We might have to try that.
Let me know if you do. I want to know some results.
Yeah. Get them tested and just see the numbers, see the terpene differences, and be the same plant, same mama plant or female plant. So I think that's very doable. Very doable. Cool. We could change
You
the
would
whole
be
hash
more
game.
apt to do the test than I would, because I'm not running around with no males around here seeing anything. So that test would be a little elusive for me. But man, if you think about it and you could swing it, man, I would love to know some input on that, because I really
Yeah,
think there's
I will
something
get on that and I will
going on
report
there.
back to you. I will get back and I will report back.
Oh, man, that's awesome. And I won't keep you no longer. I know you've had a long weekend. It sounded like a pretty awesome weekend, to be quite honest with you. So hats off to you. An amazing weekend. And happy birthday, my friend, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
76 are in the house.
so, thank you for your time and popping in and sharing some knowledge and some of your life with us. I greatly appreciate that. Two things before you, I know I said that like 10 minutes ago. Two things before you go. The Zoom numbers are always the same, and that's the third show. So if you ever happen to tune in and the title says Rabbit Hole, actually, there'll be a rabbit hole after we get done that take us the rest of the night. Anytime you see a rabbit hole, these numbers do apply. And if you'd like to jump in, if Lemon's on or Blessed Coast or anybody you see, they go, hey, I'd like to talk to that guy. Grab your phone, just pop in, hit that Zoom link, and boom, you're more
Okay.
than welcome
Awesome.
anytime you'd like to hang out.
All right.
So please tuck that number aside. And the
Okay.
other thing I'd like to get from you tonight is kind of silly. It's like a commercial, the soundbite for the show. If you
Do it.
could just kind of, basically, this is what I'm looking for in my terms, in my words. Hey, this is Eagle Gardens, and I'm on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 259. You can add whatever you want to that, subtract, but in your words, please. I'm ready anytime you are. And
What
thank
what
you.
what episode number are we?
259.
259. All right. You give me the action and I'll come in.
Ah, I'm ready whenever you are.
Hey, this is Ross Paul with Pacific Northwest Roots, tuning in with Talking Shit with Eagle, catching the vibes, episode 259. Holla.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. And anytime you're ready to come back, just let me know. And I'll make time for you. I'll make time for you. That's for
Right
sure.
on, Eagle. Appreciate you. Big up Michigan. Big up Midwest. Big up all you farmers out there. Everybody growing ganja seed, no matter how you're doing it, with the love of the plant and seeking higher consciousness. Big up yourself.
One last time, where they can find that gear.
Oh man, you can send us an email at the nw47@gmail.com. You can find us at Neptune Seed Bank. Seeds here now, heavily connected, Real Rocky Mountain High, Attic 369. Yeah, we're on Instagram, Pacific Northwest Roots with a Z or with an S and an underscore at the end.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Eagle.
Have a great night, and
Less.
look blessed. Have a blessed night. For those of you that still here, holy cow, 96 of you guys. Wow, that's pretty awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. It has been a very awesome night. Thank you for all these new names I've seen pass by in chat tonight. That's pretty awesome. Hopefully you've seen something that you'll come back and watch again. For the rest of you guys, you know the deal. The rabbit hole will come on in a few minutes. Hopefully some of you guys will follow over there and hang out tonight. And tell me how your weekend is or whatever you want to talk about. We'll see. And if not, I understand. You guys gave me a couple hours of your time, and I appreciate that. You guys know the deal. Please do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. They change lives. And in this world that we're living in, we need so much of that right now. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Peace. Thanks again, RAS Paul, Kaya. RAS Kaya Paul. I can't believe I messed that up. Pacific Northwest Roots. Check them out on Instagram. I'll see you in a minute.